California Congressman Khanna, a member of the House Armed Services, Agriculture and Oversight Committees. Thanks for sticking with us. So let's get to these headlines, Congressman, because when you see them, they are from multiple states. It's not just one place we're focusing on. Do you think they all are combined a result of the voting rights bills not passing?
Absolutely, Alex. I mean, the voting rights bills would have gotten rid of gerrymandering and done what California does, which is have an independent commission. The voting rights bills would have made sure that you have to have appropriate number of ballot boxes in every community. You can't just have an African-American community and say, well, we're going to have less ballot boxes there. And the Voting Rights Act would have made sure that people have the chance to vote by mail who need to vote by mail, and that you couldn't discriminate against certain communities from doing that. So it's really a problem that we haven't passed that.
Okay, so what kind of problem is it in terms of other approaches Democrats can effectively counter these efforts? And if there aren't, does that mean there'll be repercussions in the 2022 midterms and even the next presidential election?
Well, it's definitely a disadvantage. We can overcome it. We shouldn't have to overcome it. I mean, it should be a clear principle that everyone can agree on, that every vote counts. But there are a few avenues. One, I hope that the courts will still have some say. I know some of the gerrymandering has been so atrocious that even the courts have stepped in. In Ohio, for example, one moderate Republican on the court struck down the plan. So maybe we can still have some faith in the judiciary to uphold this basic principle. And then we need to out-organize, out-mobilize, recognizing that in some places we're going to be competing with one arm tied behind our back. And it's really sad. And finally, we need to still try to get voting rights passed in some narrow form. Yeah.
So let's talk about what seems to be out there right now, this bipartisan momentum on changing the Electoral Count Act. That is a 135-year-old law that allies of Donald Trump used to fight against certifying the 2020 election. A virtual meeting between the bipartisan group of senators is planned for Monday. What's this about, Congressman? I mean, is it about certification of the election? Does it want to undermine the role of the vice president in the process? Both?
Not at all. It's so important. I'm so encouraged that this is moving forward. And it's very simple. It's that if we have a presidential election, and let's say hypothetically one candidate gets 52% of the vote in Arizona and the other candidate gets 48%, you shouldn't have a situation where the Arizona state legislature sends a slate and has the losing candidate win that state. That would cause chaos in this country. And this bill actually starts to reform that. Every state in the country has a law right now, a state law that says that the state legislature has to follow the popular vote winner in their state. And this law, the Electoral Count Act reform, would say the judiciary can enforce that, and you can't retroactively send a slate even if someone loses the popular vote.
Okay. All right. Well said, then. We'll see what happens Monday from this virtual meeting. Let's turn now to the January 6th committee, which now gets access to a small portion of Trump White House documents that happened after the Supreme Court refused to comply with Donald Trump's request to block the release of those documents. How is this going to impact the investigation?
Well, we are trying to get all of the facts, that committee is, and I am encouraged that those documents are finally going to be available to them. I have confidence in Benny Thompson, and I think what will be issued is a full report of exactly what happened, who was responsible, and how widespread the blame really lies.
Okay, another interesting development. The 1-6 committee has invited Ivanka Trump to give some voluntary testimony. It's, of course, aiming to get information about her communications with the White House surrounding and during the attack. It's not clear that she intends to appear. And I'm not going to ask you what you think, whether she may or may not. But if she resists, what then? Is it a subpoena? And do you have any sense of how the committee would go, how far they would go, even Congress? Would it ever move to hold a member of the former First family in contempt?
Well, I don't want to speculate on that. I do know that we need the information from anyone who has it, and that Benny Thompson is going to look at what helps get the facts to the American public, not what someone's background is. In this case, my sense is that people want to know who was communicating with President Trump. I mean, there's certain emails or documents released that President Trump's own family was texting Mark Meadows to tell the president to stop it and to speak out more clearly. So, you know, it would be very helpful to know, what did Ivanka Trump think? What did she speak out? Did she urge the president to say something? And was the president not listening? I mean, I think that's very relevant. Look, if you put your own daughter in a very important position in the White House, then it's fair game to have that person questioned. I mean, if Ivanka Trump were a private citizen, I don't think it would be appropriate, but she chose to serve in a very senior role.
Yeah, 100%. One more question before I let you go here on an extended visit here with the show. The Washington Post is. You're so kind. Thank you. I'm always glad to have you. But the Washington Post Oversight Committee, Washington Post, I was reporting the House Oversight Committee is broadening its investigation into the role of fossil fuel companies in misleading the public about climate change, now asking members of the boards of directors of multiple companies, we should say, to testify next month. This about their firm's commitments to curbing global warming. What are you expecting at that hearing? And I know you remember the one in October that was really contentious. Do you think it'll get that contentious again?
I hope it won't, but Carolyn Maloney and I are co-leading this. You know, when you remember, we had the big oil executives testify for the first time in the history of Congress, in front of Congress. They said that everything their company has ever said in the past was all consistent with the science, that even when they said that human activity, burning fossil fuels doesn't cause climate change, that they were correct. I hope these independent board of directors who got elected as change agents, as climate advocates, will tell the truth and come clean and not have the company line.
Okay. Double thanks for this day. Congressman Khanna from California, thank you so much. We'll look forward to seeing you again.